He was the original Jason Bourne, a priest who broke vows and hearts, a man who vanished into feudal Japan and returned a legend. Yet somehow the world nearly forgot him. Richard Chamberlain wasn't just a heartthrob of the 1960s. He was the king of the miniseries, the face of some of the most watched TV events in history, and one of the most quietly transformative figures in Hollywood. Behind his elegant on-screen presence was a man navigating personal secrecy and public fame across 6 decades. Let's rediscover 5 of Chamberlain's greatest roles. Make sure you hit the subscribe button and turn on the notifications so you won't miss our new videos and the untold stories behind them. Before espionage, thrillers, and epic sagas, there was Dr. Kildare. It all began in 1961. Chamberlain was cast as Dr. James Kildare in the NBC medical drama of the same name. He was 27, handsome, and had a voice that combined warmth with quiet authority. It didn't take long for the show to explode in popularity. For 5 seasons, millions tuned in each week to follow the young doctor's battles with illness, ethics, and human suffering. The role turned Chamberlain into a household name. He graced magazine covers. Teenagers pinned his posters to their walls. Even hospitals reported a rise in medical school applications, people inspired by the fictional doctor's noble mission. But as Chamberlain played the picture of moral clarity on screen, behind the scenes, he was living a very different story. Growing up in the 1930s and 40s, Chamberlain knew that being gay was not only frowned upon, it was dangerous. Hollywood in the 60s was no different. He later admitted that his success as a romantic leading man made it feel impossible to live openly. For decades, he kept his truth hidden, afraid that the revelation would cost him everything. By the late 1970s, Chamberlain had stepped away from network television and relocated to England. There, he returned to the stage, performing Shakespeare and refining his craft. He wasn't chasing fame, he was chasing substance. And in 1980, he found it. Shogun aired in primetime across 5 consecutive nights, captivating viewers with its sweeping story of a shipwrecked English navigator who finds himself in the middle of samurai-era Japan. Chamberlain played John Blackthorne, a man forced to adapt to a foreign world or die in it. His performance was deeply physical, emotionally restrained, and layered with vulnerability. It marked a major departure from his earlier romantic roles. Shogun was more than a hit, it was a phenomenon. Viewers were transported into an ancient world full of strange customs, honor codes, and intense conflicts. It introduced many Americans to Japanese culture for the first time and earned Chamberlain yet another Emmy nomination. Critics praised his transformation. Gone was the smooth, smiling doctor. In his place stood a man tested by war, love, and culture shock. If you remember watching Shogun live, hit the like button. It helps bring these forgotten stories back into the spotlight. Just 3 years later, Chamberlain delivered what many consider the pinnacle of his acting career, The Thorn Birds. Aired in 1983, the miniseries was based on Colleen McCullough's best-selling novel. Chamberlain played Father Ralph de Bricassar, a Catholic priest torn between his ambition in the church and his decades-long love for a woman named Meggie, played by Rachel Ward. The show was bold. It tackled forbidden love, sacrifice, and guilt with a rawness rarely seen on television at the time, and audiences responded. Over 100 million people watched. It became the second most watched miniseries in U.S. history, right after Roots. Father Ralph was both saint and sinner, and Chamberlain played the duality to perfection. What viewers didn't know was how close the role hit to home. Chamberlain later revealed that portraying a man living with a buried love mirrored his own private life. The show was fiction, but the emotion he poured into the role was painfully real. Comment below, did you feel sympathy for Father Ralph, or did his choices cross a moral line? We'd love to hear your thoughts. Then came a trio of roles that showed the full spectrum of Chamberlain's range. First, the Count of Monte Cristo. In this 1975 adaptation, Chamberlain played Edmond Dantes, a young man wrongly imprisoned who escapes and plots elaborate revenge. It's one of literature's great tales of injustice. and Chamberlain brought the role to life with a quiet fury and intelligence that made it unforgettable. Then, in 1988, he took on an even more surprising identity, Jason Bourne. Long before Matt Damon turned the role into a modern action franchise, Chamberlain starred in the TV miniseries version of the Bourne identity. The story followed a man with amnesia trying to piece together who he was, only to discover he's a trained killer, hunted by those who made him. His Bourne wasn't muscle-bound or flashy. He was sharp, haunted, calculating, and for fans of the original book, many still consider Chamberlain's take to be the most faithful to Ludlow. He returned to the stage, appeared in hit shows like Will and Grace and Desperate Housewives, and even published a book of haiku poetry. In 2003, at age 68, he finally came out publicly in his memoir, Shattered Love. He later said that once he told the truth, he had no fear left. And with that, he closed the final gap between the roles he played and the man he truly was. Richard Chamberlain's legacy is one of transformation. On screen, he lived 1,000 lives. Off screen, he quietly challenged Hollywood's expectations and built a career on his own terms. Subscribe to the Bold Fact Files channel, turn on the notifications, and you won't miss our new videos.